reference to a question that was raised concerning whether or not we were caterpillars or in the cocoon. And at this juncture, thank you, we go through a continuum of being the caterpillar, in the cocoon, in the butterfly. And we are at different points in our lives. I may be the butterfly, you may be the caterpillar, or you may be the butterfly, not the caterpillar in that area of my life. So when we deal with the vulnerabilities, when we make ourselves purposefully vulnerable, as does the caterpillar. The caterpillar is vulnerable. When you cross across the road, you may run over him. Right. When you cross across your step, you may crush him. So he's vulnerable. But when a caterpillar is in a cocoon, he's less vulnerable because he's out of sight, and he's in a place where you can't step on him accidentally. If you're home in the cocoon, you did it on purpose. You see, and if we look at the butterfly, right, then the butterfly's protection is that he can fly away. Plus, it's so beautiful. Most people don't want to do it.
Right, that's true.
You see,
I did. I recorded one in my bush.
And they're delicate. They're very delicate, and you treat them as such. I mean, even when we were kids catching butterflies, we did it in a way that wouldn't hurt them. Right. So that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Yes, it is impossible to go beyond being human without making yourself vulnerable, because in order to make yourself vulnerable, what you're actually doing is you are putting yourself in a state that is beyond what you hold on to in humanness, if that makes any sense.
It's like if you want to feel like you're floating, you have to relax and open yourself up to it. It's like, but if you try to do it, you don't experience anything other than frustration. Let me say this first. To those who are probably watching and listening on the phone, I'm going to be leaving early because I got to do my niece's funeral today. And you may wonder the reason why would I come. I came because I need this. I need the energy. I need the strength. When I can teach, I'm fine. I can handle anything. When I can exchange energy with you and be one in that energetic field, I'm fine. I can handle anything. So that's the reason I'm in. And it has nothing to do with selfishness. It has everything to do with a desire to impress upon people the reality of life and transitioning, as opposed to being impressive. So being impressive I'm not trying to do that. So, but go ahead, Sean.
Oh yeah. So to make because if to understand more so what vulnerable is, let's look at the opposite of being vulnerable, which would mean just staying within a restricted area that you feel comfort in, but not discovering or venturing outside of that restrictive area. So you're holding on too tight to that comfort or that being that without experiencing anything else. And then the other thing, as far as the caterpillar turning to a butterfly, I think it's also important to realize that
for security purposes, this call has been terminated.
It is us ourselves who actually put the big difference between caterpillar, butterfly, but everything, like you said, is a continuous process, and because everything is a continuous process, everything is always changing. It's just that we put a lot more emphasis on certain things compared to the other. But all the little things that we fail to realize play just as an important role to leading up to any major event. So in essence, history is not, if you look at history as a whole, it's not these separate events. We may look at it that way, but this was a long process of things that's taking place over and over again. There's a lot of minute little things that determine these big things taking place.
And I was listening to you speak in reference to how we were talking about the caterpillar, the cocoon, and the butterfly. Again, those things are created by us in order to prove to ourselves that there is, that our separateness does indeed exist.
Our separateness?
That separateness does indeed exist. We have to create objects.
Okay.
Because if that car is out there, then the car is separate from you.
Mm-hmm.
So we create these objects to prove to ourselves or to convince ourselves that everything is a separate entity, that every toilet must sit on its own bottom, that kind of expression.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do. And you know, it's like we make a statement that God will put no more on you than you can bear. That in itself is separate. Because if you make that statement, then here you are, here God is. Now He brings the circumstance to put on you. You see, as opposed to recognizing that here you are, every circumstance is here, and God is here, the Creator is right. Everything is the same, and recognizing that the circumstances appear or they are revealed to you because they're always there, but the revelation of their existence come in order to strengthen you, and strengthen you not in terms of muscular, but to strengthen your resolve to keep to persevere on this journey of self exploration, so that you can really see who you are. So it's the circumstances. There are no circumstances that comes to you. There are no situations that are brought to you. There are no problems that are brought to you, and there are no strengths that you can gain from any place, because everything that is, you are, is already there. Everything that is, you are. So there's nothing that is that you are not. We have made that our made that our mantra, that I'm just a human. We've made that our mantra. When we began to see that there were things more important than us. There are things more important than our children. There are things more important than our jobs. And there are things more important than our studying. And the things that's more important than our studying is being able to experience or to be intimate with or to have intercourse with the power of the resurrection, meaning the power of truth. You know, the inherent power or the inherent ability to bring truth from the depths of our being without trying to shape it or trying to make it justify our being human. Because when we allow truth to flow, it becomes a mirror, or it becomes a concept that helps us to see that we are not human, that we've convinced ourselves we are. That's what truth does. That's the opening of truth. Does that make sense?
Sound like you're telling us to have more so of a subjective experience, and then trying to look at things objectively. And if we stick more with subjective, or more comfortable with having a subjective experience, then things will just fall in place naturally by themselves.
I want to show you something. The words we use, our vocabulary, is always indicative of who we are. You just use the term subjective. We're the subject. Subjective is talking about us being who we are without being separate. Objective is an object. Is separation. You see where I'm coming from? But when we speak of being subjective, we're talking about us being recognizing that there is no separateness. So I can't deal with Barb in an objective way. It's always subjective, because she is me and I'm her. So even our vocabulary is indicative of who we are, and the reason it's like that is because the Creator will not allow us to escape the reality of our existence.
And the funny part about it is if you try to look at her objectively, once you go beyond a certain point, like really, really digging in and being objective, it has to be subjective because you're looking at it through your eyes, which is almost like your tools and your perspective, the way that you want to look at it through your experience anyway. So it's impossible to move away from the subjectiveness.
Even though we convince ourselves we have. And that is the reason we began to experience other people's pain. You know, when someone is going through something, you experience it too. It's not because, it is not that you're doing it objectively, it's very subjective. And you're one with that person, that pain, that emotion.
That's what empathy is.
Yeah.
You are being that person.
That's right.
Okay, well, one thing is, because I was watching a show, and this person fell or was cut or stabbed or something, and it's like, even though they were acting, I felt that cut or whatever.
That's the sensitivity.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, but they were acting,
It
so
don't matter.
it doesn't matter?
It doesn't, and the reason it doesn't matter is because to you it's a reality.
Yeah. You're experiencing the same thing that they're acting, you're actually experiencing in real life. So in that instance, you are that particular person. Whenever you're in a situation that you feel pain, or if someone is going through something that's very cheerful and happy and you feel their happiness, in that, essentially you are that person at that moment out of your human experience, even though you're still trying to be human.
It explains why artists are powerful.
Yes.
Of any kind.
And music. Very powerful.
Yeah.
I was thinking about.
But the other thing, though, is that you're not, what you're experiencing are the vibrations behind those things. There are wavelengths for everything, even the art, even the music, even the experience of the pain, and that's what true actors can do.
Yes.
They can vibrate in the role or in the area that they're trying to portray.
In character, isn't that what they call
That
it?
in character.
Yeah.
I mean, and the same thing happens when you go to some type of sporting event and everyone is cheering or booing or whatever. All of you are one because you're sharing that same experience, or you're on that same exact vibration. When you feel that connectivity with everyone, that is what's actually taking place beyond a materialistic perspective. All of you are one person at a time. All of your minds and everything, your hearts are focused on the same exact thing. So you are one.
When you said the vibration, I was looking at something to talk that I was going to deal with at the filming for my niece, and I began to look at it, and I'm going to read this verse because it's just one of the verses. It says, "For the Lord Himself will descend from heaven with the shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first." Of course, it means something totally different than that. And the trumpet is reverberation. And I began to look at what's actually there. I'm like, you can't get rid of this. I got to teach that here first.
Shout is too, and
yes.
you said with a cry, with a shout, all of those are several different.
But all of it is reverberation. All of it is. And they're talking about talking about Elohim doing this, reverberating or vibrating, so that those who are dead to themselves, because Christ does not mean salvation. It doesn't. Jesus does. You remember when we were, what was this? It says, what does the anointing do?
Yeah.
It destroys yokes,
Removes burdens.
removes burdens and destroys yokes, right? Okay, that's not what the anointing does, that's what it is. It is the power to remove burdens and destroy yokes. You see what I'm talking about? So when you say Christ, you're talking about the the capacity to destroy burdens and remove yokes. So when you talk about Christ Jesus, that's the capacity that you're making reference to, and the one who, that's the capacity, but Jesus, the Yahweh, Yeshua, is the one who does it. Can you see what I'm talking about? We have that capacity. The anointing means you have that capacity to do that. Now, whether you do it or not is whether or not you recognize yourself as being as He is. Not only will you do what I do, but greater things. That's.
Well, the burden and the yoke has to be the belief that you're human.
Well, the burden and the yoke is not necessarily the belief that you're human, because being human is the burden and the yoke.
Yeah.
So when you remove that, then you not separate, but you get beyond the concept of being human. And you begin to see that you're spiritual. Another thing that's gotten us, I think, is that the Creator did not allow us to translate different words for air, breath, etc., spirit. All are the same word regardless of the language. And I think it was done that way so we would lose sight that regardless of what you say, if it's wind, if it's breath, if it's spirit, all are the same. In other words, when you feel a gentle breathe upon your skin, it's a reminder that He's breathing, or that He breathed the breath of life in you. When you see a ripple in the water and there's nothing thrown in the water, but just a gentle breeze going across the water, that's a reminder of the breath that you are. Those kinds of things that we have lost, seemingly have lost sight of. So, but I didn't do that particular. I'm not going to do that particular scripture because it's complicated. And to teach it, I got to have questions when I teach it. When I talk about it, that's what I'm going to say. So, and that in itself is different. There are things that I cannot properly present without questions. I can't discuss it. I can't see it without questions. And that's why I don't understand why people can be comfortable with people around them who just agree with everything they say. Because just now when Barbara added the thing about the shouting and those different inferences there, that all of which allude to the phone ringing and all of which allude to the vibration of the reverberation. Without that input, I miss a lot. So if without that input, if I miss a lot, what am I saying? What's happening here? The foot can't say it doesn't need the hand. You see?
Yeah.
That's a human experience that speaks to a spiritual reality. And it says that we need each other. We don't need each other. I don't need Barbara. I am Barbara. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
We are each other.
Yeah.
So when something comes, it's just is for lack of a better way of explaining it, it's like she's the thought that came to me, and I'm the thought that came to her. So we are all those thoughts of the same entity. Though we appear in our minds to be individual, there is no such animal as individuality. It does not exist. Only in our mind. Only in our minds. And when we look at the whole idea I was talking about earlier, the neocortex that makes us human because of thought and emotions. When we look at it from that perspective, and we began to see that there was consciousness beyond that, and the consciousness that's beyond that is the same consciousness that all of us not have. We don't have it. It's the consciousness that we are. We have this human concept, but we don't have the consciousness of light. When you look out there, when my niece transitioned, her light was not extinguished. It's just too bright for us to see.
Mm-hmm.
When you look out there, you don't see light. You see trees. The light allows you to see.
Okay.
And then what's beyond that, as far as the higher frequencies of light, we don't see radio waves and things like that, but they're all around us.
And we hear the results of them being there.
Yeah.
You know, as are the people who are watching this broadcast now or later. That's you know. So we don't. You don't see light. You see what's around it, and the reason that what we call darkness comes in a physical way is to remind us that we're blind. We're spiritually blind. And the way we get beyond that is light. And the reason I think that we don't see light, we see objects that reflects it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I believe it, that we don't see it is because how can you see you?
I just thought of something.
You see what I'm talking about? How can you see you?
As far as the light spectrum is concerned, our eyes are only set up to see a certain very, very narrow patch or path, so to speak. So if you think about it, has everyone in here seen the movie Predator?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he actually didn't see just through. He didn't see through our limited perspective, so he could see heat waves and things like that.
Right.
So that's the only thing that's taking place is what we see, and why we think we're human is we see certain things from a certain density or a certain frequency. So majority of what is out there, the vast majority of what's out there, we cannot see. If you think about maybe a light spectrum, and I'm just using arbitrary number, being a foot long. And if you think about what we can see, it might be just a quarter of an inch. So imagine how much stuff that actually is seen that we never ever see because we're only looking at it through a human perspective.
And you know why we're talking about this? A few days ago, it was 10, 11, 12.
I know, yeah.
I was thinking about it last night.
So what I did, I added it. And I put 10, 11, 12. Then I did 1, 2, 3. Then I added in at 6. And then I said, so what does this mean? And then I sent the text to Jamil because he's good at it.
I did the same thing.
I sent the text to Jamil,
Yeah.
and he's in 0.2 seconds. I got a response. And it was that 33 times Elohim was mentioned in creation, 33 miracles, public miracles attributed to Jesus. And 33, it's mastering yourself. And 33 is 6. So it's talking about the mastering the humanness of you, your human weaknesses, so you can be who you're supposed to be. And it dawned on me that the 33, anytime there is a repeat of the number, is emphasizing the depth of what you said, of what exists. So 33 is emphasizing the superiority of the divinity over the 6, which is humanness. So we're where we are today because we're moving. Everything is moving towards the 21st. And we have to come to grips with this concept of being human only because we choose to, not because we were created to be.
So that's even more so for 12, 21, 12?
I suppose.
That's 333, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. So actually, from what you said, is expanded exponentially in terms of the presence of the divine overshadowing, or maybe not overshadowing, but giving us a clearer picture of who we are. that's,
The only thing I thought of as you were talking about who we really are, and when you think of death and you think of the body itself, and lots of times people are just so tied to that physical body until they're reminded, just take a deep breath and hold it.
yes.
If you think you're the body only, take a deep breath and hold it. You can't, most people can't even just knock themselves out by holding their breath long enough. And so the other question is, where does that breath come from that animates the body?
Right.
So the body is not the important thing. It's the breath. And if God blew the breath into each of us, we have access to it. Where does that breath go when the body no longer is animated, is no longer moving? The body is not who I am. The breath goes back to the source.
Yes.
So I can't be tied to the body. I guess that's why I have been to my mother's grave maybe twice. I have been to my father's grave maybe once. I feel no guilt. That's not where they are.
Right.
And so it's not, I am not drawn
And
to where that body was
Yes.
planted.
that's what the scripture I wanted to talk about that's so complicated says. When it talks about, it says that, something about, for if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so God will bring with him those who have fallen asleep in Jesus. Of course, it doesn't say that. It's something totally different because it's talking about believing in yourself. But when it talks about Jesus dying, it's talking about a natural body. But when it talks about those who fall asleep in Jesus or with him, it's talking about the spiritual nature. It's talking about the trance, the same sleep that's with the Adam. So what we've lost sight of is that the whole concept of the body is death. Because the body is the thing that keep us thinking or believing that we're separate.
Okay.
You see, when you talk about dying to self, it's talking about dying to who you think you are. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's fascinating to me. When it talks about the archangel in this particular scripture, I look at ark, it talks about beginning. Unto angel is message.
Yeah.
So when it talks about the archangel, it's talking about the message from the beginning.
What was the original message?
Right. So you see, yeah. But that's what it's talking about. So when we begin to hear the message from the beginning, or as the Bible says, the original message, when we begin to hear that, not hear it with our ears in an audible way, but when we get to the place where seeing and hearing are the same, it is at that point that we begin to not only receive the message from the beginning, or the original message, we become that message. And once that happens, now we are able to seriously make a choice of being awakened from this trance so that we can do an Enoch. Or if we choose not to, if we don't know how to awaken ourselves, then we call it transitioning. We transition from this body to where we are supposed to be, and that is beginning.
And those of us who have begun to be awakened, death is nothing, because that's,
Right.
we've already transitioned in a sense.
Yes.
So it doesn't take the body dying for that to happen, because that's not where the transitioning really occurs.
And absolutely. But the body keeps telling you, don't die.
Yeah.
Hold on a little while longer. Just you're afraid to close your eyes and die. Just hold on. What your children gonna do when you die? Those kind of things that we have brought into being bondage or the burden that we were talking about earlier, Janice, those are the burdens. Those are the yokes that keep us in bondage. And it takes recognizing that we are just as Jesus is, or Yeshua is. It takes recognizing that in order for us to activate the capacity to break those yokes.
Are there different stages with transitioning or transition? I'm thinking about the butterfly again.
Okay, I see what you're saying. There are not different stages, but we put them in stages
And yeah,
so
you
we
did say
can talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, there are no stages.
So how does that relate to the butterfly?
The butterfly, the created and created butterfly we did. So everything we created as an object, separate from us. And we created things and we bring it in stages. Your car was made in stages. Your clothes were made in stages. I remember when I worked in this place, I spread cloth for clothes to be made. And when I spread it, the cloth, they laid a huge pattern on it. And the cutters come in and cut it. And there are boxes, they put them in separate boxes, and you may have the front and the back, half the front, half the back, and you sew that piece together, you pass it down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, behind you, you put it back in your box, and that box goes to someone else. They put the collar on it, and it goes to someone else. That kind, and they put the trim on it. And then when you get all the way to the end of the line, they put a tag in it. The tag may say Macy's, that means $80, or TJ Maxx, and that means $20. But seriously, I watched them put labels in them from different stores. And some of them were your major stores, but they were made in the same place, they were cut from the same cloth. And all of us are cut from the same cloth.
So everything.
Okay. So, also with what you just said, so if that was a shirt, at what point does that just come from being cloth to actually being a shirt? With the caterpillar and the butterfly, only thing that we're doing is we're looking at it in one state and we're looking at it in the other state, and completely just ignoring the fact that it went through a process, getting in that cocoon, wrapping itself in the cocoon. It had to go through a process in that cocoon until it finally turned into a butterfly. That was a continuous process.
I'm gonna tell you what way it became a shirt.
And then we said it was a shirt.
No, you saw the complete shirt. That's what a real shirt is. So what you do, you cut little pieces up to make what you saw. Now you created the stages for it. What you did, you saw the shirt, and then you dismantled it so that you could draw the pattern for it and put it back together again. Can you see?
Yeah.
But that's how we
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
create reality too.
Right.
That's
though.
what I was just going to say. Exactly.
With you saw my response was there's no such thing as determined objects. They're nothing but everything is nothing but possibilities.
Yes.
So it's the same exact thing.
And right. So when we get to the place where we realize that where we really are, and in terms of thought processes, then we won't need that camera. You remember, some of you, I'm sure remember when I could look at you and tell you about you, and people be like, "Oh, be around."
Yeah, we used to do like this, and I'm like.
Yeah. Well, what was actually happening is that the same thing is taking place with the people who are viewing this, but it was simply viewing my life or our life or whatever, you know. It was seeing it. It is no different than seeing the shirt in your head and then dismantling it. It was, when I saw those, when I would see things, I didn't see it separately. I saw it all at once, just like that. And I didn't see it outlined like Audrey's outline. And I didn't hear it audibly. When I see it, see it conceptually. I see the concept. And that tells me what I'm actually seeing. And that's what helps you to move beyond where you are. Why? Because if I see it and I tell you about it, it's intended for you to do something about it. Not do something about it to make it more of a physical entity, but to do something about it to help you see a spiritual truth.
So you shed light on it.
Yeah.
Is that,
I'm back to the cloth spread
Okay.
out.
Right.
Everything from the same beginning.
Right.
I mean, made at least from the same
Yeah.
material. And what we do is, as it's created, we are the ones who put the value on it
Right.
because of where we shop.
Yes.
When I see that shirt in Nordstrom's or whatever, I expect to pay a certain thing for it
Right.
because I'm the person that has the money and I can pay this for the shirt. It's not remembering, well, not understanding that it all started in the same place.
Right.
And so the more we're tied to reality, the more value we assign to that thing, which is an object.
Yes.
So
And it's so true to this writing because the value that we add to it becomes the value that we add to ourselves. Yeah. Now, I wasn't thinking about it, but they might well put Clarence in this tag.
Clarence?
Clarence. I call him Clarence.
Oh, Clarence.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got it now.
I mean, you see, because that's me. Very rarely that I'm gonna do anything that does not have Clarence's name. That's my brand. Yeah. So I wear name brand clothes. Clarence. Now, why do I do that? It's because I don't want to pay that phone. I'm gonna do the same thing with I'm gonna put them on and watch them and put it back on. It doesn't make sense to me to do that. Now, I would much rather be taking that, giving it to somebody to help them move along, in terms of this life experience, so that they can find out that this, what we call a life experience, is actually a intimate relationship with something that doesn't exist, so that we can see what does really exist. When you think about it, the material is actually barren. It really, the womb of beginning, I'm sorry, the womb of materialism is actually barren. It can't give life. It cannot. We are the ones who make it seem like it's life. We are the ones who do that. But when we look at it from the other perspective, I remember seeing, you remember when I was talking to you about the light that was intertwined standing in this room, and I saw it become intimate? There were no bodily organs involved in terms of my seeing that. You see? Mm-hmm. And even the garments were transparent. But the transparency of the garments was not, you can see through them. I can't explain how it is, but there was nothing was there like that. And the garments were there, and now that I look at it again, I see that even the bed itself was breathing. Everything was alive in that room. Everything was alive. But everything outside that room was dead. It was solid material stuff. But in that enclosure, and I can remember that very vividly, that it was like being in a hotel with all these rooms, and only one room has life. All the rest of them are just there. And the life spreads from that room through those others and out. Because if it spreads through those rooms to those other people, they go in different directions, and they begin to see things and don't know why. So just maybe an awakening is taking place because of that light. Does that make sense? But that's what I saw. And now it's all beginning not only to come back to me, but it also, I'm getting a greater clarity as to what it represents, or what it means, or what it, I should say what it is, because it doesn't exist. And we have to make sure that whatever we see, whatever we desire, whatever we reach out to, we're not actually reaching out to it, we're actually one with it, and we have to be careful not to pervert it. Because anything can be perverted. Anything. Evil, one that we talk about unrightness, but evil also is using something for other than for what it was created to be used for. You know, you see what I'm talking about? It's like taking a CD player and trying to play a record. It's just not going to work. If you look at it from the spiritual, you will see that the perversion is not with the people. I go again. The perversion is not with the people who don't go to church. The perversion is with the folk who go to church. And it spreads out into the community. Because the rituals that are performed are perverted in that they are being used for a different purpose than for which they were created or brought into being. Does that make sense? Yeah. They're being used for a different purpose. So when we began to see what the purpose of it is, we're fine. But guess what? If you don't know the purpose of a thing, you're going to abuse it. You're going to abuse it. I mean, there are in my phone, I know the purpose of it. We've got some other stuff on there. I don't know what the purpose of it is. So I don't be messing with it. I'm not abusive in that I try to make it do something that it's not supposed to do. That's what these rituals, these Christian rituals are about. And I say Christian, I'm talking about European post Constantine rituals. That's what they're about.
But the person who made your phone and knows at least the further limitations of it, you've limited to this, and they know that you can do this.
Right.
It's almost like they can think that it's an abuse that you got this sophisticated phone and you don't even do what you can do with it. So think about it. So think about it on a spiritual level. You know, there's so much in us that so much that we are capable of, that we limit ourselves.
There's so many apps.
And there's no condemnation. There's no condemnation to those who are genuinely searching, but always end up at that place that they have been manipulated to see, or that place where they've been conditioned to end up. You have, but when you know better, the conditioning has to be dealt with so that you don't end up there, because once you do, you're not being deceived. It's like a relationship. If you're in a relationship and someone does something and they tell you, or you find out, or you see it, right? Mm-hmm. And you say, they deceiving me. They ain't deceiving you. You know that. That's not deception. So if you take communion for the same reasons you were taking it, before you begin to see what it really means, then you are deceiving yourself, and you will be beaten with many stripes, because you have taken a holy thing and made it unholy. Something has been separated from confusion. Now you put it right back in there by virtue of you playing that game. You understand? That makes sense? So you cannot be, you can't be baptized to be a member of the church, and you can't take communion to remember Jesus, the man, like the Son of Man, in terms of Joe Mary Boy. You can't do that. It has to be the remembrance of what's stated there in those particular verses. Put remembrance, and again, here we go with these words, this language of ours that speaks to our spirituality. Remembering something means to put it back together again. You see what I'm talking about? Huh?
You're clear to me, but I don't know people who are out there.
We just asked the question. Huh? What do you think clarity needs to be? And you talking about, when I was talking about relationships?
No, you're talking about the church, how when you're told that, do this in remembrance of me.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
We began to see that that scripture, Matthew, talks about not remembering Jesus the man, but it is remembering beginning. It's talking about remembering. It talks about when it says that he blessed it. It's talking about a eulogy. That's where the word comes from, to say something good about. And the one of whom he's speaking is the man for the man because of the purpose for which he was created. And the good thing about that is that this man it's so important that Elohim never forgets him. Elohim is always available to this man, and this man is the one who diminished himself. This man is the one, so he has to remember not only who he is, but how he got to in the state that he's in. All of those things take place, are supposed to anyway, when communion is being served. Now, what happens is you get to a place where you don't need physical communion anymore. And there are those who probably listen to this and I'm blasphemous, but the Bible says that God and his word are one, right? Are the same, right? Mm-hmm. And it says that God is spirit. His word is spiritual. So everything in the Bible is spiritual. Mm-hmm. So you deal with these physical, tangible things or rituals until you are able to understand what they mean. When you understand what they mean, they become one with you, you become one with them, and you no longer have to do it that way. Because you're constantly in that state of being reminded of who you are and how you got to the place where you are. And by virtue of that happening, you have to continuously commune with not just self in terms of that idea of being separate, but you have to commune with the Creator in order for you to be drawn to the place where you recognize the oneness of your being. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. And as far as the baptism is concerned, it has nothing to do with you becoming a member of the church, because I don't see where the other dudes who got baptized became a member of the church. But it does have everything to do with the washing away. Well, let me back up, please. Baptism has nothing to do with you going down in the liquid grave. Have you heard that term before? That the water's a liquid grave and you being resurrected. That has nothing to do with that at all. Not one thing. And the reason I say that is because baptism was in effect before Jesus was crucified. It was in effect before Jesus came into the earth. You see, so baptism had to mean something else. The submersion had to mean something else, and the something else that it represented was the water is the natural spirit, represents the spiritual, or the breath of the Creator, and you are representing Elohim that was created, the one who's created the image of Elohim, and all those impurities that have caused you to be blind to who you were created to be and who you really are. Metaphorically, they're being washed away in that water. And I see it metaphorically because it is the breath of the Creator that actually separates you from it. When you look at the word circumcision, especially in the New Testament, it talks about the removal of impurities, or the opportunity, the possibilities for impurities. And if you think about your heart being circumcised, if you think about the male pudenda being circumcised, right? If you think about that, and you see what the foreskin being cut away, the potential for impurities is beneath the foreskin. But when it's cut away, the potential for the impurities being hidden has been taken away. Now, if you take that and make application to when it talks about your heart being circumcised, then it's you becoming vulnerable. It's the foreskin, or those things that are hidden, those compartments of your being where you hide stuff, even from yourself, in order to justify, to make you feel good about what you're dealing with. Those things are exposed. So it's removing the impurities, and Paul talks about the false circumcision is mutilation. It is you being convinced that the impurities have been removed, but they have not. They have not. He says, beware of the dog, beware of evildoers. In Philippians, when he said beware of the dogs, that dog is not talking about a rover. He's not talking about that dude who eats apple. Beware of the dogs is talking about people with contaminated minds. Their thoughts are impure. And the impurity of the thoughts are delineated when he began to talk about who he is. You know, I'm of the tribe of Benjamin. I'm a Hebrew. I'm known Hebrew. I was well versed in the law, those kinds of things. And he said, I count that as nothing. So to say that I'm a member of such and such a church, because we big dogs. You see, that's the same principle here. That's emotional impurity that's being personified by virtue of the person who leads that church. Because you're there because of that person, or because it's huge, or because it is prestigious, or it is known. And I've always had problems with people saying, to me, when you tell me that this is the fastest growing church, you tell me that it's the worst place to be. Because the more you deceive folk, the faster they come to you. Or the greater the entertainment, the more people you're going to have. So that's the worst place to be. But if you tell me, well, we're struggling, then I won't know what you're talking about. Because we are geared toward, we've created an atmosphere that's geared toward deception. So people flock to deception. And so we have to actually begin to see it for what it really is. I mean, you talk about the burdens and the struggles that we have, but keep in mind, the more that is revealed to you or you're exposed to in terms of struggles or circumstances or issues, the stronger it's done because you're stronger. And you're being made even stronger than that. Guess what? The more burdens that you have, the greater the confidence is in you.
Say it again?
The more burdens you have,
Mhm.
the greater the confidence that's being expressed in you. If you were not supposed to be made aware of what's in you to deal with that, right?
Mhm.
Or to rise above it,
Mhm.
it will not be revealed to you. The Lord don't put no more on you than you can bear. That's what that is. You can bear it, you don't want to.
That's right.
You got that right.
Yeah.
You just don't want to. And what I try to do, well, I don't try to do it, but it doesn't come out right all the time, but I do it. I have to talk to me about that. Because there are things that I don't want to bear. There are things that I don't want to do. But then when I look at something that I don't want to do, I don't want to bear, guess what? That's the very thing that's going to reveal more to me than anything else. And the reason it is so difficult to bear that, it is designed to keep you away. It's a distraction, to keep you from having that revealed to you that you need in order for you to become more aware of the image that you are. Does that make sense? So when you come to grips with what's placed in front of you and you begin to deal with it in terms of embracing it, it hurts sometimes. Sometimes it's like embracing thorns, you know. And the closer you bring it to you, the more it hurts. But keep in mind, those thorns may hurt, but the roses are beautiful.
Well, you can't see the rose for feeling the thorns.
But
You know what
now
I mean?
you can't see the roses because you don't want to. You can see the roses, but you pay more attention to the pain.
True.
But keep in mind that if you choose to, you don't have to suffer the pain.
Just trying to figure out why we're hugging rose bushes anyway. I mean, I'm not trying
It's
to
a
be
metaphor for a circumstance.
I got you.
Embrace what's put before you is all I'm saying. Embrace it.
So stop being tired of
Guess
punching
what?
rose bush.
Guess what? Whether you embrace it or not, it's not going anywhere. It really isn't going anywhere.
Just for you.
Right. Okay, what were you bound? Regardless of whether you deal with it, it's not going to place, is it?
No.
Now, when you come face to face with it and deal with it the way you know you're supposed to, it's over much quicker. Isn't it?
Yep.
So it's like if I have things I need to get done, I do them. Because I don't want them staring me in my face. I do them and they say, well, it's not, you don't have to do that till tomorrow. Well, I don't know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, so I'm going to do it now because I got the opportunity to do it. Monday. What I did Monday, I was leaving my class Monday night, and I stopped at the service station. Well, I was going to stop. I said, no, I'm not going to stop. I'll get gas tomorrow. But then I decided, you need to go ahead because she started to do this. So I filled the car up. I'm on my way. I'm driving.
That's how you drive. I ain't riding with you, no.
So I'm going down the road, right? Okay, I'm like this. So I'm driving, right? And I get, and then the phone rings. And our baby says, where are you? I said, I'm about 5 minutes from the house, right? She says, we got to go to the town tonight. Because I need to get work, right? And I went home, we threw some stuff in the bag, and got her sister, and by the time we went home, we went back to Union celebration. So I had what I needed, but if I had waited till tomorrow, it would have thrown me behind. Now, after the transitioning, it was somebody got 10 o'clock, but we can't tell on the phone. So I get in the car. We at the place Emory, and so I go to jump in the car and go to Mississippi immediately. I could have said, I'm gonna tell you what I thought about. I thought about calling Craig, saying, listen, dude, I need you to ride with me. But then that would have been 2.5 hour wait. I knew I needed to do that, so I did it. And if I had not done that, 2.5 hours later, I would not have gotten a room in the hotel that I stayed in. If I had waited 2.5 hours later to contact Clark, rather than do it at that morning that I did it, she would have seen it on Facebook. You see what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong. Now, what we decided, it was not going up on Facebook until after the brother found out, and it did.
Okay.
So what I'm saying to you is that you do what you're supposed to do at that moment, and it will stop staring you in the face. Because if you don't do what you're supposed to do at that moment, you go do it the next one. And guess what? When you end up doing it that next moment, there is something else that you wish that you could do, but now you can't because you got to handle this.
It's not a butterfly effect.
Handle your mess.
Live in the now.
No, handle your stuff.
Yes.
So deal with it right here. Why? Because every time you do it, it has a positive effect on mankind. And you say, well, how you know it's positive? Because there's nothing negative. Not to mention the fact that it expresses your capacity to destroy yokes and lift burdens. Because if you don't do it, it becomes burden, doesn't it?
Yes. And it's the burden that we create. Burdens are something that we create.
Well, they're always here, yeah. Every burden, every circumstance, every situation, every problem, every issue is already in you. They just revealed. Yeah, they just uncovered. And they're uncovered for you to deal with them. But what happens is, when they're uncovered, rather than deal with them, we go get a concrete truck and cover them up again.
Or blame someone.
And then that concrete truck, that concrete, it's like grass. After a while, you see people head through that concrete. Here I am. So rather than use a jackhammer to get back to it, just deal with it in the beginning. Hear that, don't you?
Yes.
Deal with it where? In the beginning. And if you deal with it in the beginning, guess what? It changes everything. So now we don't create it anymore. Because we're at beginning. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's a hard pill to swallow. It's just like a calcium pill. Them big old pills.
Yeah, it's stuck right here. It's stuck right here.
But if you drink some more water,
Right.
it'll go on down. So if you recognize the breath that you are, the more you recognize it, the easier it is to swallow.
I'm gonna keep you in my back pocket. I need you.
You get a little thing on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Be like,
You
you know you won't deal with that.
You know you.
And then instead of saying you deal with it, I just thump you here. When it's cold.
And when I don't want to hear what he said, I'm gonna sit on it.
But you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Sheldon.
From an actuality standpoint, when you say the Lord only puts what you can handle on you,
Yeah.
really, and then going back to when we were in John 3 last week, it seems exactly what he's talking about is just the higher self pretty much just has for, metaphorically speaking, a book of lessons for you to go through. So you're going to go through these lessons regardless, because these are things that need to be more so purified or need to be dealt with, or lessons you have to go through within inside of yourself in order to get you to the realization that you are that higher self, which is the God putting things on you. So you can either go through the lesson, or you can just take your time and fight the lesson, but you're still going to have to go complete this like book, for example, regardless. So in essence, your lower self is just in rebellion with your higher self, or rebellion with God when you won't go through it.
So we got to go to hell. I mean, not in the hell that we've been taught, but you have to go to hell through the purification in order to get where you need to be.
Yeah, you have to deal with it. And you determine whether it's quick or long.
Tired of getting burned.
Well, you determine how long you get burned.
I'm tired of getting burned.
Because if you fight it, you're going to get burned regardless. There's no way to avoid being burned.
Well, the burden is determined whether or not you're purified,
Yeah.
or punished, and you are punishing yourself.
So what's the significance with the Hebrew boys when they went in that oven and they didn't get burned? Is that the same thing? How did they not come out with all burned up or whatever?
Still put themselves above the situation.
Those are already purified.
Yeah.
They set their intent, and they were willing to even die physically for that spiritual intent of, I will not bow down to this materialistic.
Or to this burden, I will not. Can we say that?
Or that you can say
Take it
whatever
on,
you want. I will not give in. I will not. This will not overcome me.
Okay.
Right now, do you feel perfectly comfortable, or are you a slight bit cold, or you a slight bit hot sitting here right now?
No, I feel all
I
right.
mean very, very slightly, so it can be very minimal. Which one?
Chill a little.
Just a little chill.
Yeah.
Okay, you determine how big of a problem that is. You could be mad to the upset, you mad with everyone else in here, with me, because I didn't go and turn the heat on or whatever, and just sit there and be cursing me out of your shit right now, and you yourself have made that a big problem. Or you could have sat here like you did and listened to Pastor and see what he was saying, etc., and now it's not even an issue at all. So you determine how much you were burned in that particular situation before you were purified from it.
Well put. Sheldon.
So that we just determine ourselves how big of a problem any one thing is.
I have a question. Going back to circumcision. Going back to circumcision.
He called you Superman.
I mean, yeah.
Super pastor.
I think I can handle that better. Excuse me.
So if circumcision is for the reasons we understood it to be, what is the significance of then males forcing that on females?
That's a good question.
Is male domination there, as opposed to respecting the femininity? Males, it's all about control, because the purpose of it, according to the ones who are doing that, is to decrease their sensitivity so that they won't have a desire for sex. But in actuality, what they're doing is acting out the desire to remain human by destroying the Shekinah, or reducing the Shekinah to a place where it has no desire to procreate. That's a physical manifestation of a spiritual distraction.
additional when we talked earlier about things actually taking place, but anytime something takes place when it's not supposed to take place, and being forced upon something, in that particular time it is actually evil. So it would be the same exact thing of all of us have gone through a certain process as far as growing to get to where we are right now. But it would be the equivalent of forcing someone to go through something, and with us forcing any particular situation upon someone because we're supposed to be trying to help them, it could actually be more detrimental than it can be helped, depending on when it's actually taking place in their lives. So a few weeks ago when we were talking about everyone should be able, should be allowed to grow in the manner that they are naturally growing or getting to know themselves, and some things are necessary for them to get to know themselves, etc. And earlier today when Pastor was speaking, and when we, as far as relating to people, if every single thing that a person is going through in their life that is perceived to be bad, if they had not gone through all those things, it would be an even larger group of people who they could not even relate to because they have not gone through the same exact experiences. So these so-called bad experiences that we actually go through, when we are heathens or hellions or whatever else, they play a very, very important role. I know I'm not super passive, y'all don't like talking to me.
No, you're not supposed to be super, you're supposed to be sheltered.
Super show.
Yeah.
Super Sheldon.
That's it.
I'll finish it, I'll just like
Well,
Where is that verse, God won't put more on you than you can bear? Is that the verse, there's no temptation taking you? Or is there another verse that says that? Because I can't find it. God won't put more on you than you can bear. With all my technology, she won't find it for me right now.
you may know.
Okay.
The scripture, he gonna put more on you than you can bear.
Oh, I didn't-
That there hath no temptation take you, but such as is common to man. That's the same thing.
That's in,
Or is it, or are you talking about another one?
no, that's in Hebrews, isn't it?
No temptation is taken.
That
Corinthians?
Maybe that's all.
Corinthians 10:13. No temptation has taken you, but such a man can bear. God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted above what you are
That,
able, but will with the temptation make also the way of escape that you may be able to endure it.
Oh, okay, so it is the same. I knew about the Corinthians 13,
1 Corinthians 10:13.
but I didn't know if there was another scripture that talked about
that's how old.
the way we interpret it, yeah.
Our folk translate it that way.
All right, all right.
Okay.
You gotta go to Atlanta, or you gotta-
No, I got to go to Union.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
All right.
Alright. I'll,
Say-
I'll call you. Take care.
So special.
Yes, it. Yes, it's super show.
Super special Sheldon.
He's supersonic now.
Thank you for correcting her. part of that verse?
Yeah, I just wanted to add in. I was just looking at the word temptation, and what does that mean? It's a proving, it's a trial, it's a, so it smacks of what Pastor said. It's there for you to know you. Like you gotta prove to you that who you gotta show you. You gotta know what you are capable of. And it does that thing.
The only thing I look at a trial as not that, but some type of like drill or something when you're preparing or practicing some sport when it's just there to make you better. It's work, but it's the work to make you better.
It's interesting. My tennis practices are always harder than the games.
Do you during your games actually realize and notice how intuitively or instinctively you do things that you kind of like burden yourself through in practice?
Yes. Burden, cussed, hurt. Yes, all of that. Yeah, it makes the games a lot more fun.
So it becomes second nature. So in other words, we can also look at trials as if I master this, I can deal with trials better in the future as well. So you are equipping yourself with more effective and efficient weapons.
So that verse that talks about bearing one another's burdens on the one hand, as opposed to trying to get through your own trials, it's almost like, how can you bear somebody else's burden unless you're willing to deal with your own?
But you do
Yeah, but
deal with yours.
They're all the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's my point. Though
Okay.
I'm saying we see it as two different things.
Right.
Well, how can you do that unless you deal with your own? In dealing with your own, you are dealing with the other.
And whenever you deal with someone else's issues, you made it your issue.
Exactly.
Because you have a problem with it. So it's an issue for you.
It's funny this thing says temptation is nothing except those that are common to man. So if it's not something extraordinary, it's not something over and above, it's stuff that's common to man
Although
or to
we
men.
always say, why me?
Yeah,
But it reminds us that, it's a part of
human
humanity.
That's what I'm saying. So, what you're trying to say is that it's only a problem to the human aspect of ourselves, and outside of that, it's not a problem.
Yep. I just have to remember that.
And does that mean every single thing I have a problem with?
Every single thing.
Now turn around and say, does that ever mean everything you got a problem? Ouch.
So does that mean anytime I have a problem with anything, I can just tell myself I'm being human and realize that?
No, I think you gotta look at the second part of the verse.
What's the second part of the verse?
Oh, well, I mean, well, the second part of, well, what is the second part? So, God is faithful. Well, He provides a way for you to escape by you recognizing who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not human.
If you rise above it, like you said. Your higher self, in other words, you gotta resort to that.
Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Any other comments? Rika?
What does it mean by that we may be able to endure it?
What's the full context?
Is enduring it, it says He will provide the way of escape, also that you may be able to endure it. If we escape it, do we have to endure it? Is one
Read it
different
one
than the
more-
other?
Read it one more time.
Well, no temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man. And God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, that you may be able to endure it. If you escape it, why do you have to endure it?
Is escape and endure alluding to two different things?
That's what I'm wondering.
Because
If you rise above it, why do you have to endure it?
That's my thought. And endurance too.
Or is that talking about different things?
I don't know, because I was wondering, was escaping actually, was escaping and doing one talking about the actual trial or tribulation, and was the other one actually just talking about literally being human? Because we're talking about two different things in that area. We're talking about the trial, and we're also talking about being human. So it seems like one would be referring to one while one was referring to the other, because it wouldn't say two different things like that about the same thing. But those are the two subjects that we're talking about.
It's almost like you're in a situation that you can't seem to get out of, but that you are amazed, if you will. But you are able to get out of it. But endure means means patience also. It means
To deal with it, so to speak.
yeah.
To be able to take something on.
To patiently deal with it.
And escape means to just completely be gone away from something, like to be completely separated from something. Which could also just mean an ideal. Also, it doesn't have to mean something
well,
materialistic.
could it be talking about enduring it until you get to the point of recognizing who you are, or something like
And that's
that?
what I was talking about as far as yeah, I see what you're saying. Before you realize that you are human, almost to make it through the day-to-day exercise or practice of being human, as you grow, as you actually go through a process to the point where these human problems no longer exist, because they only exist while you are a human. Or while you perceive yourself as being a human.
It's almost like Paul's thorn in the flesh. I mean, as being a human, he had whatever this was that he was dealing with. But he also, in a sense, knew of his higher self, but it allowed him, while he was human, to endure it, to bear it. Just because he was aware of his higher self didn't mean it went away.
Yeah.
As long as he traveled this human path, or endured this human existence, he had to endure whatever that was.
So just the thought alone of knowing that he was more than what he thought or he saw himself as being at the time is what was the driving force to allow him to be able to go through the things that he was going through without just going in opposite direction or settling, or in a way not physically, but of course just dying as far as his spirit was concerned, etc.
And almost it was that thing that allowed him to see that, regardless of all this, I pressed toward.
That was the motivation.
I pressed forward.
Which is also can be more of a motivation because he sees himself as being involved as well as far as his higher self is concerned, versus just waiting on someone or something and that tiring out. A savior outside of himself. Finish with the scripture.
Do you want it? No, I mean, do you want one? That was. Just tap on the words.
Is anybody saying any more in that scripture, or is it over? Are we doing this?
That's what Sheldon trying to get us to say.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just waiting.
I'm just looking, It's just looking at you.
Really going out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm finished. Ms. Barbara.
The truth of the light that we are, and the light of the truth that we are, reminds us that our purpose is the recovery of truth within us.